Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, thank God. June 20th, your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning, some clouds this afternoon, high 86. And then look at this. No rain in the forecast for this weekend. That hasn't happened in a while. Saturday, sunshine, high 89. And then Sunday, it's really going to be hot. Sun and clouds, high 97. If you're walking out the door with us right now, it's 68 and clear in East Hampton out on Long Island. 67 clear in Garfield over in New Jersey. And 69 and a few clouds right outside our Midtown studios.
The top 5 at 5.
What a wild night of weather across the tri-state. It's the final weekend to shake hands, kiss babies. A local mayor went to jail for taking bribes. Now she's running again. Uber drivers have a legitimate complaint against their passengers. Yes, you are seeing double at a high school graduation in New Jersey. All right, let's get into it at 5:01. That stormy weather, depending on where you are across the tri-state, either happened yesterday afternoon when the skies went very dark, or maybe it was last night in some areas. Brought heavy rain winds to parts of the tri-state. New Jersey hit pretty hard.
It got really dark, like out of nowhere. Like it was bright and sunny out here and hot, and then out of nowhere it was like pure darkness.
And it happened suddenly. It was like all of a sudden it was pitch black. It was really weird.
Yeah,
and the storm knocking out power to about 60,000 across New Jersey. Now, those were the numbers as of last night. A couple hundred flights delayed or canceled due to the weather at the tri-state area airports, all from those storms. And then here in the city, you had this very intense moment in Central Park yesterday. A 15-year-old boy hit by lightning during that severe thunderstorms. Thankfully, he is going to be okay. Speaking out about his condition, he was in the park with some friends when he was enjoying a picnic and the clouds went dark, and he made the mistake so many people make, is he decided to run to hide under a tree when this lightning storm was going through. He spoke to Eyewitness News.
I lean up against the tree and I tell them, oh, guys, let's ride out the storm, which in hindsight might have not been the best idea.
No, it wasn't. The teenager had no way of knowing the tree would be hit by lightning. Of course, the jolt knocked him unconscious for a few minutes, but he was alert when he was taken by ambulance to Cornell Hospital, where he is surrounded by loved ones and is going to be okay. I mean, you can hear him talking to Eyewitness News.
Apparently, I'm pretty lucky because my spine was directly against the tree and no nerve damage happened. So I'm like not losing any sort of motor function. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Yeah, never a good idea to run under a tree during a lightning storm. He's being treated for second-degree burns on his neck and leg, but the doctors say he's going to make a full recovery. And then there was just sort of the destruction from this quick storm. I mean, it did get dark. It got very windy, very rainy. A massive tree, Ridgewood, Queens, falls on top of a car. This guy goes out to find out the car is his.
She tells me that my car's done, and I told her, what do you mean? She said, come outside and go hard. That's what I see.
Yeah.
Just the tree on top of the van.
Yeah. So, I mean, not good for the car, but thankfully nobody was in it. Neighbors all over the city saw branches coming down, entire trees fall over.
The light started flickering a bit like a horror film. And then all of a sudden, like one of the tree branches fell and then the whole tree came out the roots and crushed the truck right opposite our window. And there's probably 100-year-old tree or something like that just ripped out. So, yeah, it's not going back in.
So today will be a day to clean up that mess. 5:04, New York City's Board of Elections says early voting has been a hit this primary season. New Yorkers have their voting plans in place. A lot of them have taken advantage of early voting, which ends on Sunday.
I have an idea of who I'm going to vote for, but I just need to do a little bit more research before that happens.
I think that I have to do it tomorrow.
I'm doing it all, baby. You got to be responsible. Everybody's vote counts here.
Now, according to the BOE, the Board of Elections, nearly 170,000 ballots had been cast. That was as of yesterday afternoon. So that doubles the amount of voters that showed up in the same period during the 2021 primary election, which suggests voters are a little more energized during this race. Brooklyn is so far reporting the strongest turnout, which you would guess, no, I don't have any authority on this, that bodes well for Zohran Mamdani. A lot of his support in places like Park Slope in Brooklyn. Staten Island has the least amount of early voters. That tends to be a Republican stronghold. Curtis Sliwa really is the only candidate in the race. Early voting continues through Sunday, with polls closing for the day on Monday and then reopening for actual primary day on Tuesday. Not all going on, as the NYPD Hate Crimes Task Force says it's investigating the death threats against Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani reportedly received multiple death threats in recent weeks, including a threat to blow up his car. He actually doesn't even own a car. At least 4 threats have been left via voicemail in the Assemblyman's Queen's office, included Islamophobic statements. So he says, you saw him earlier this week. He got very upset on the campaign trail, some tears when he talked about those threats. He said others around him have been threatened as well. And the NYPD says they're on top of it. They're investigating it. And then there's Mayor Adams, who's been having his own issues as of late. He had this dust up with a reporter from the Daily News, and he's now banned him from City Hall. Reporter for the Daily News got in this confrontation with Mayor Adams after he apparently asked a question out of turn. His name is Chris Sommerfeld. Here's what it sounded like during the press conference.
You're not going to come into this conference, mouth off topic, and be disrespectful and call out and think you're going to do what you want. You won't come through that gate if you do that again. Yeah, right. So shortly after that, he alerted security not to let Chris into the room in the future. An assembly member, Charles Levine, he's from Nassau County, wrote a letter to Mayor Adams defending Chris Sommerfeld, saying Adams' actions are a clear violation of the American constitutional values, and they can't keep this guy out of City Hall. And there is, of course, a race on the Republican side for mayor for the primary. It is really the only candidate in the race is Curtis Sliwa. And yesterday, former 3-term GOP governor George Pataki said that Curtis Sliwa has a real shot to win City Hall. And he says because the Democrats have veered so far to the left, or they're tainted by scandal, that this is the weakest Democratic field ever. That's what Pataki told the Post yesterday. He says Curtis has the financial resources to run a competitive campaign, maybe more so than when he ran last time. And Pataki's going to headline a campaign fundraiser for Sliwa on June 26 at Fushimi in Times Square. That's 2 days after the Democratic primary. So, of course, Cuomo has his sexual harassment issues. Zohran Mamdani, if he runs as an independent or wins the Democratic primary outright, he has some issues with the Jewish community. Mayor Adams has a number of issues as well, as he's running as an independent. So Pataki says, yeah, Curtis has a real shot. And he'll be happy that I said that on the air, too, no doubt. WABC News Time 5:09. How about some good news for drivers in New Jersey? Interstate 80 expected to fully reopen in Morris County 4 days ahead of schedule. Parts of the interstate, of course, closed for several months while crews made repairs to several sinkholes that opened up on the roadway. Governor Murphy says that all 3 eastbound lanes on I-80 will open tomorrow. The westbound lanes have already reopened. That was 11 days ahead of schedule. So New Jersey Department of Transportation warning, though, that before that reopening tomorrow, the eastbound lanes will be closed from 9 p.m. tonight until 9 a.m. tomorrow so they can complete the final paving and stripping. Boy, that's good news because that's been a nightmare for people on I-80. 5:10. Let's go down to Washington. The White House says President Trump has a time frame for when he'll make his decision about a possible U.S. strike or intervention in the
the Iran-Israel conflict.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, "Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks."
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt there says if there's a chance for diplomacy, the president will grab it. She says correspondence between Iran and the U.S. has been ongoing, and there's been wide speculation whether the president will authorize the use of U.S. bunker-busting bombs to take out Iranian nuclear facilities.
Nobody should be surprised by the president's position that Iran absolutely cannot obtain a nuclear weapon. He's been unequivocally clear about this for decades, not just as president, not just as a presidential candidate, but also as a private citizen. And the president has made it clear he always wants to pursue diplomacy. But believe me, the president is unafraid to use strength if necessary. And Iran and the entire world should know that the United States military is the strongest and most lethal fighting force in the world.
Okay, so what we've heard over the last couple hours is Iran's foreign minister is actually in Geneva at this time for a meeting with his counterparts from France, Germany, and the United Kingdom. So there is some discussions going on, more from the White House.
In 2011, President Trump said America's primary goal with Iran must be to destroy its nuclear ambitions. We cannot allow this radical regime to acquire a nuclear weapon that they will either use or hand off to terrorists. In 2015, the president said the problem is that Iran poses an existential threat to Israel.
And, of course, there's anger on both sides, Iran and Israel. There was that strike on a hospital in Beersheba in Israel yesterday. The hospital is called Soroka Medical Center, and their main charity that supports the hospital overseas here in the U.S. is right here in New York. It's in Scarsdale. Here's a woman who's the director of American Friends of Soroka. She says the donations have been pouring in since the hospital was hit.
A community of thousands emanating from Westchester throughout New York City, throughout the tri-state area, all the way to California, people who are passionate about Soroka.
Maybe you've seen pictures of the hospital. I mean, there was a ton of damage done.
It's a full-on emergency. We're undertaking an unknown yet campaign to rebuild Soroka, and we're going to need all hands on deck.
And there's this bid to get Americans out of Israel. Maybe you saw on Wednesday a cruise ship left Israel for Cyprus with American teenagers on board who were there for a summer program. A rescue operation flight carrying Jewish Americans from Israel landed safely in Miami yesterday. Judy Elias is with Heroes to Heroes. So she was in the middle of this 10-day mission with a group of 33 veterans, and they had to figure out a way to get out of the area.
It was a pretty harrowing experience. My major concern was getting all of my veterans home safely.
Yeah, she says it was all chaotic. They managed to make it onto a plane after a 60-hour travel ordeal. The group has been in shelter since sirens began sounding last Tuesday. The governor of Florida apparently involved, Ron DeSantis, in helping coordinate these flights and cruises to get people out and back to the U.S.
We were all scared to go to sleep. You know, we knew something was coming. It was a question when. So I'm very relieved. I don't think it's a good thing to be, as a tourist, to be in a country when a country has to manage a war.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And then we've had these sideline incidents. Ohio Congressman Max Miller says a man showing him a Palestinian flag tried to run him off the road yesterday.
We will not hide, and I will continue to fight against anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and all other forms of hate.
Yeah, whenever there's these wars in the Middle East, they tend to have these moments that play out here. The Republican says the incident happened yesterday in the Cleveland suburb of Rocky River. He posted video on X where he says some unhinged, deranged man ran him off the road, and he couldn't get his attention as he tried to get his attention to show him this Palestinian flag.
As I was driving to work, some unhinged, deranged man decided to lay on his horn and run me off the road when he couldn't get my attention to show me a Palestinian flag.
The congressman is okay, but he says it was all pretty frightening.
Death to Israel, death to me, that he wanted to kill me and my family. Thank God my daughter was not in my vehicle or anybody else at the time.
So far, no word of any arrests. 5:15. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk. Good morning. Happy Friday, Justin Eller.
Good morning. Happy Friday to you as well, Noam Liddon. We will start here on the diamond. And in the Bronx, Trent Grisham and Paul Goldschmidt hit consecutive homers in the second inning, and the Yankees beat the Angels 7-3 to halt their 6-game skid and salvage the finale of that 4-game set. Carlos Rodon allowed a season-high 3 homers, but held the Angels to 4 hits in 6 innings to bounce back from 2 rocky outings against the Red Sox. The left-hander struck out 7 and walked 1 on his afternoon of work. Cody Bellinger had 3 of New York's 12 hits, including an RBI single that provided a 5-3 lead in the 7th. Aaron Judge doubled before a 35-minute rain delay in the 8th and scored on a groundout by Anthony Volpe after play resumed. Austin Wells also hit a sac fly in the 8th with his 2-run dinger in the 2nd that put New York up. Grisham has now homered to tie a game or give the Yankees a lead 10 times this season. Up next for the Yankees, the ace Max Fried will get the start in what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx for tonight's series opener of a 3-game weekend series against the Baltimore Orioles. As for the Mets, they fell 7-0 to the Braves in the finale of a 3-game series in Atlanta, surrendering the sweep and suffering their 6th straight loss in the process. New York's latest sloppy defeat, paired with Philadelphia's 2-1 win over Miami, left the Mets and the Phillies tied for first place in the NL East heading into their upcoming weekend series. Mets pitchers issued 9 walks, including a career-high 6 in 4 2/3 innings by starter Clay Holmes, who allowed 3 runs. Huascar Brazaban walked 3 while giving up 4 runs in relief. Juan Soto's single with 2 outs in the first for the Mets was his 1,000th career hit at just the age of 26. Up next for the Mets, they'll recall right-hander Blade Tidwell from AAA Syracuse to make his 2nd Major League start tonight in the opener of a 3-game series at Philadelphia. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:15 p.m. And to the hardwood, last night from Indiana, the Pacers beaten up on the Thunder 108-91 in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. That series is now all knotted up, 3 games apiece, and that means a Game 7 Sunday night in Oklahoma City. Get ready for that.
Oh, that's going to be a good one.
It's going to be a great one. Yeah, this has been a really great series, to be honest with you. I mean, that's coming from somebody who's watched maybe a total of
3 minutes of it?
Yeah, 3 minutes.
Right.
But just based on, seeing the recaps and looking at the scores and watching some of the highlights, I mean, man, it has been back and forth. I guess that's how you get to a Game 7, Noam Layden.
Yeah, that's what you want.
Yeah.
You want a Game 7?
100%. So we're looking ahead to that on Sunday night from Oklahoma City. That is your Sports Noam, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 520. A new poll suggests a majority of Americans are opposed to the U.S. getting involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran.
The Washington Post surveyed roughly 1,000 U.S. adults this week and found nearly 1/3 of those polled knew little or nothing about Israel launching airstrikes against Iran. It found only 25% support the U.S. military launching airstrikes against Iran over its nuclear program. 45% oppose U.S. involvement, while 30% say they're not sure. A large majority of those polled were either somewhat or very concerned about the U.S. getting into a war with Iran. I'm Michael Kastner.
The last American hostage held by Hamas finally home in New Jersey now.
The joy was palpable in North Jersey after former Hamas hostage Adon Alexander arrived back home on Thursday. Hundreds of people lined the streets of Tenafly, catching a glimpse of the 21-year-old in a police motorcade.
This is truly, a miracle, and we're so thrilled for his family.
It's been really terrifying. We're waiting for him to come home, but now that he's back, I'm very happy.
They were waving Israeli flags and welcome home signs while Alexander smiled and high-fived the crowds from a limousine. Alexander had been held by Hamas for 584 days. I'm Lisa Ritchie for 77 WABC News.
WABC News Time 521. Back down to D.C. The White House says sanctuary cities will be increasingly targeted by ICE. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says President Trump is securing the homeland, noting that not a single illegal alien was released into the U.S. last month.
According to newly released numbers, last month, Border Patrol saw a 93% decrease of illegal aliens crossing the southwest border between ports of entry from May 2024 under Joe Biden, when they encountered more than 117,000 illegal aliens.
And she says Homeland Security ramping up efforts to arrest and deport the millions of illegal aliens that former President Biden let in.
The efforts by President Trump to stop the illegal immigrant invasion and secure the border in this short amount of time represent one of the greatest achievements by a presidential administration in the history of our great country. Illegal criminals who are hiding in America's largest so-called sanctuary cities will be increasingly targeted for removal. Radical Democrats will no longer be allowed to shelter illegals who threaten public safety as part of their cynical efforts.
And as that all goes on, out in Los Angeles, the Dodgers refused to let ICE agents into the grounds of Dodger Stadium. In a statement, the team said the ICE agents requested permission to access the stadium's parking lots yesterday, but were denied entry by the organization. There were some anti-ICE protests there. It's not clear if the agents were there to conduct immigration raids or if anyone had been taken into custody. The team has been facing pressure from fans to make a statement about the ongoing raids in Los Angeles. WABC News Time 5:23. President Trump went on social media yesterday to criticize the number of non-working holidays in the U.S.
Trump posted on Truth Social that there are too many non-working holidays in America, and it's costing our country billions of dollars to keep all of these businesses closed. Trump claimed the workers don't want it either and said it must change if we're going to make America great again. Juneteenth marks the very end of slavery in the U.S. and has been celebrated by African Americans since 1866. The day was not formally marked at the White House. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
While we're talking about the president, he once again extended the deadline for a sale for TikTok.
The popular video sharing app's China-based owner ByteDance now has until September 17th to sell it or have it possibly banned in the U.S. This is the third time Trump has extended the deadline. Earlier this week, Trump said he believes Chinese President Xi Jinping would be willing to approve a deal to sell the app. The law banning TikTok, if it isn't sold, was passed under former President Biden. I'm at Mattinson.
Oh, what people will do when they're in love. Police have charged 2 people in connection with an attempted cyanide poisoning in Wisconsin. The Dane County District Attorney says Paul Van Duane and Andrea Whitaker are accused of plotting to poison Paul's ex-girlfriends. Okay.
There is detailed discussion on any different poisons, how to make them.
Yeah, so a month ago, one woman told authorities someone broke into her car and her water tasted strange after she returned to the vehicle. The water bottle then submitted to a lab, and investigators just found out that cyanide was in that water. Police exercised search warrants at the Paul Van Dune's home, along with his girlfriend's home, and did raids, and that required hazmat teams.
The search history and the chat messages between her and Mr. Van Duyn are extraordinarily concerning.
Yes, so Paul and his girlfriend now charged with attempted homicide, accused of aiding a felon in the case of Whitaker, his girlfriend. A deal to merge U.S. Steel and Nippon Steel has been finalized.
Under the agreement, U.S. Steel will keep its headquarters in Pittsburgh, and more than 100,000 jobs are expected to be created across the country. The agreement states that Nippon Steel will invest $11 billion in new investments in U.S. Steel by 2028. The deal also ensures that the majority of U.S. Steel's board of directors, including its CEO, will be American citizens. I'm at Mattinson.
Yesterday, we told you about that SpaceX Starship that exploded during a routine test. We're getting a little more information. Correspondent Tom Costello reports the video shows Ship 36 erupting into this massive fireball.
SpaceX, led by Elon Musk, said the Starship rocket experienced a major anomaly while preparing for its 10th flight test, adding that all personnel are safe and there are no hazards to residents in surrounding communities.
What makes this also frightening is that they were going to use Ship 36 for their next Starship launch. So now they're trying to figure out, of course, what went wrong.
The explosion rattled nearby residents who posted videos on social media. One telling My San Antonio News, quote, "Our whole neighborhood felt it. It shook all of our houses." Starship has faced a number of setbacks this year, including 3 explosions. Last month, during Starship's 9th uncrewed test flight, the vessel broke apart over the Indian Ocean after losing control upon re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
Now trying to figure out still what went wrong. A judge is going to allow the federal case against Boulder attack suspect Mohammed Soliman to move forward now. In the meantime, downtown Boulder CEO Bettina Swigger says city leaders are focused on the future of the area after that attack on those protesters. protesters who were trying to protest the fact that hostages are still being held in Gaza.
If there is such another event, which we dearly hope it does not ever happen again, that we're able to respond quickly and compassionately in order to make downtown continue to feel safe.
Solomon was in court in Denver yesterday after being charged with committing a hate crime after the June 1st attack. He'll be back in court again sometime before the month is out.
It's the 77 WABC News Hour.
Talking the news with Noam Laden.
All the news you need to know with Joe Nolan, traffic, Justin Ellick, sports. And now,
Talking the news with Noam
on 77 WABC.
Yes, that's me. Good morning. It is Friday, June 20th. Your forecast from the 77 WABC Weather Center. Sunshine this morning, some clouds this afternoon, high 86, and then the weekend looks pretty nice. I mean, it's going to be warm, but no rain. So Saturday, sunshine, high 89, and then Sunday's going to be the hottest day. Sun and clouds, high 97. If you are walking out the door with us right now, it is 68 and clear in East Hampton out on Long Island. It's 67 and clear in Garfield over in New Jersey. And it's 69 and a few clouds outside our Midtown studios. Now, is today the longest day of the year? Or is that tomorrow? I always get confused. Summer solstice is June 21st, but I think today is the longest day. And what's so great about that is if you're up listening to me at this early hour at 5:36, it's light outside. It's awesome. And then it'll be light outside like almost till 9 o'clock tonight, right? Is that how late it'll go? I've been falling asleep before the sun goes down lately. But either way, this is supposed to be the longest day of the year, so it's a Friday, which means you can get out and really enjoy it. 5:37, traffic, transit on the 7s. Am I right about that, John? On stage?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Today and tomorrow, I think they're both like the same. You know, the summer solstice, I think the time of daylight is pretty much the same. And last night, my wife and I went out to dinner. We came home at 8:45, and it was still daylight. You know, so
it's awesome. And look outside, you see it too, right? Right now, it looks like it's the middle of the day right now.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
WABC News Time 5:38, the mayoral primary just 4 days away now. Some of the leading Democratic candidates casting their ballots early and drawing in key endorsements. At least 3 Democratic mayoral candidates opted to cast early ballots during early voting. Zohran Mamdani, Adrian Adams, and Brad Lander.
New Yorkers need a mayor who will stand up and fight instead of selling us out to Donald Trump like our current mayor has. We need a mayor who will stand up for New York values.
The projected frontrunner, Andrew Cuomo, received that major support from former Mayor Michael Bloomberg with a $3.3 million donation to the super PAC Fix the City, which brings the total contributions from Bloomberg to $8 million to the Cuomo campaign. And Andrew Cuomo's been talking a lot about the fact that he's been endorsed by Michael Bloomberg.
He wants to make sure that we have a mayor who is competent and qualified to save the city, and he believes that's me. I think Mr. Bloomberg is also concerned, as are many Jewish New Yorkers, about statements that Mr. Mamdani has made.
The money's being used to blanket airwaves with anti-Mamdani ads in the final days of the primary. The donation prompting Mamdani to accuse Cuomo of trying to buy the election.
Politics is not something that can simply be bought by billionaires and corporations. It's also something that can be won by working people. And that is what's on the ballot this June 24th.
And Mamdani continues to be criticized for being anti-Semitic, something he says that is not true. Here he was again talking about it yesterday.
I've been clear that any incitement to violence is something that I'm in opposition to, and that the use of any language to that end is clearly something that I oppose.
You know what's missing in those statements, and maybe this is just from inexperience on his part, is you need to say, I'm going to protect Jewish voters. But he never kind of says that, right? When they ask him, what are you going to do to protect Jewish voters? And you get this answer.
I've been clear that any incitement to violence is something that I'm in opposition to, and that the use of any language to that end is clearly something that I oppose.
Yes, a better politician consultant around him would tell him he needed a better answer than that. According to the Board of Elections, over 168,000 people have cast ballots in the first 5 days of early voting, which is double the turnout in 2021. So there is some excitement out there. Early voting ends June 22nd. The primary, of course, is June 24th. And there is a primary, by the way, on the Republican side as well. The only real candidate in the race is Curtis Sliwa, who yesterday got this nice big endorsement from former Governor George Pataki, who says, I think Curtis has a real shot at winning this race. He says the Democratic candidates are too far left in the race or have their problems, like Andrew Cuomo and Mayor Adams, and he thinks this is a race the Republicans can steal. So he's going to hold a fundraiser for Curtis 2 days after the primary. 542. While we're talking about primaries, up in Spring Valley, Norami Jasmine wants to be the Spring Valley mayor once again. She served in that role from 2009 to 2013 and hopes her accomplishments in office, like development and infrastructure projects, gets her back there. One problem, though. In November of 2015, she was convicted and sentenced to 4 years for taking bribes while she was mayor. So she's hoping that voters will look past that. And she says she's even would hire a committee that would go through everything, like an advisory board, to vet people she deals with. I guess so she wouldn't be tempted maybe to take bribes.
Willing, because they know my second chance will be the first for Spring Valley. Because at this point of time, Spring Valley is in a deep hole. You need someone with experience to deliver for Spring Valley. You don't need someone you're going to hold their hands to learn.
Yeah.
The job.
Yeah, but 4 years, when you get 4 years behind bars for bribery, you've clearly done something wrong. Pro-Israel demonstrators rallied outside the Iranian mission to the United Nations yesterday. They say it's time that talking is over as Israel and Iran exchange missile strikes. Of course, the world's watching, waiting to see how the White House will respond. President Trump weighing in on one of the most consequential decisions of his second term. He's apparently still holding out for a diplomatic resolution. Here's White House spokeswoman Caroline Leavitt.
I have a message directly from the president, and I quote, based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks.
And it's been an intense couple of days, the volley of missiles back and forth. Iran carried out a direct strike on a major hospital in Israel, also hitting a high rise in Tel Aviv, injuring at least 240. The IDF retaliating by striking dozens of sites in Iran. This as this rally took place outside the Iran consulate yesterday.
We've been waiting for decades for diplomacy to rescue us from the evil of the evil alliance led by the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Now, what we're being told this morning is there are Iranian diplomats in Geneva speaking with world leaders, foreign ministers from countries across Europe, trying to find a way out of this. So here were some more of these people outside this protest in front of the Iranian consulate yesterday. Here's Dov Hike.
I have no doubt that America will do the right thing. Peace through strength.
Yeah. So for the meantime, anyway, the White House says it's this 2-week waiting period as the president mulls over whether he wants to get involved in the conflict between Iran and Israel. All right, 5:45. Let's head over to the 77 WABC Sports Desk, and here's Justin Allen.
Thank you, Noah Maladen. We'll start here on the diamond in the Bronx. Trent Grisham and Paul Goldschmidt hit consecutive homers in the second inning, and the Yankees beat the Angels 7-3 to halt their 6-game skid and salvage the finale of that 4-game set. Carlos Rodon allowed a season-high 3 homers, but held the Angels to 4 hits in 6 innings to bounce back from a rocky 2 outings against the Red Sox. The left-hander struck out 7 and walked 1 on his afternoon of work. Cody Bellinger had 3 of New York's 12 hits, including an RBI single that provided a 5-3 lead in the 7th. Aaron Judge doubled before a 35-minute rain delay in the 8th and scored on a groundout by Anthony Volpe after play resumed. Austin Wells also hit a sac fly in the 8th with his 2-run dinger in the 2nd that put New York up. Grisham has now homered to tie a game or give the Yankees a lead 10 times this season. Up next for the Yanks, the ace Max Fried will get the start in what will be a 7:05 p.m. first pitch from the Bronx for tonight's series opener of a 3-game weekend series against the Baltimore Orioles. As for the Mets, they fell 7-0 to the Braves in the finale of a 3-game series in Atlanta, surrendering the sweep and suffering their 6th straight loss in the process. New York's latest sloppy defeat paired with Philadelphia's 2-1 win over Miami left the Mets and Phillies tied for first place in the NL East heading into their upcoming weekend series. Mets pitchers issued 9 walks, including a career-high 6 in 4 2/3 innings by starter Clay Holmes, who allowed 3 runs, Oscar Brazaban walked 3 while giving up 4 runs in relief. Juan Soto's single with 2 outs in the first for the Mets was his 1,000th career hit at just the age of 26. Up next for the Mets, they'll recall right-hander Blade Tidwell from AAA Syracuse to make his second Major League start tonight in the opener of a 3-game series at Philadelphia. First pitch there is scheduled for 7:15. And to the NBA, last night from Indiana, the Pacers beating the Thunder 108-91 in Game 6 of the NBA Finals. That series is now knotted up at 3 games apiece, and that means a Game 7 is set for Sunday night in Oklahoma City. That is your Sports Gnome, and I'm Justin Ellick on 77 WABC.
WABC News Time 5:48. A Muslim New Yorker telling Eyewitness News that she was brutally beaten after a man asked her what her religion was and then attacked her. This happened about 4 in the morning on a subway in Queens on Wednesday. The victim says she got onto the E train at the Forest Hills station to head to work when this guy just all of a sudden was towering over her, got right in her face, and as soon as the doors closed, this creep allegedly pummeled her nonstop until the train arrived at its next stop at 75th Avenue.
He said, "Tell me, where are you from? Are you Muslim?" I say, "Yes." And then he punching me, he started kicking. He punched all over. I just said, stop, but he not stopped it. I couldn't understand what's going on.
Yeah, it was intense to see this woman. I mean, she has 2 black eyes. I mean, she's in bad shape. The man fled. 2 women and a conductor, they helped flag down the police, and they were able to catch up with this guy. Thank God. Naveed Durni is his name. He's 34 years old, charged with hate crime as an assault. Meanwhile, this 55-year-old victim, who was just trying to get to work, says now she's going to have nightmares about this guy.
This trauma with me, it's never happened before. How can I forget his face?
Yeah, let's hope they throw this guy behind bars. For a while, her eyes swollen, bruised from the vicious assault. She also suffered a concussion, a fractured nose, and is bruised all over her face. And she says this morning she can barely walk. 5:50, police investigating a double shooting. This was East 39th Street in Flatbush. It left a 28-year-old man with a wound and another one with a wound to the back of his head. Apparently, they were just sitting in a black BMW when somebody rolled up and bullets began to be fired. Neighbors say this neighborhood is usually relatively quiet.
That's the time when kids are normally coming home from school. They're walking up and down the block, going home, people coming from work. So it's a great thing that it was a holiday because this could have been worse. You don't have things like this happen around here.
Yeah, this happened about 4:20 in the afternoon. No word of any arrest or what led to that shooting. 5:50 out to Long Island. 1 person killed when they crashed into the Quaker Meeting House in Manhasset. Authorities say the driver died when the car crashed into the building. They're not really sure what happened. This was Shelter Rock Road, Northern Boulevard, slammed into the house. The car burst into flames. Car registered to a 41-year-old man. Police haven't revealed the identity of the driver just yet.
What caused the auto accident, whether or not the driver had a medical episode, whether speed was a factor, the weather conditions this morning, it was foggy, whether that was part of the accident is under investigation.
A fair amount of damage done to this 300-year-old Quaker Meeting House.
It's used as a meeting place. It's used for homeschooling. It's used for a variety of art and culture programs.
Again, so far they have not released the name of the person killed in the accident or what may have led to it. 5:41, let's bring it back here into the city. The MTA has been touting this new reports that shows congestion pricing has traffic moving better in New York and New Jersey. Now, my experience was in the beginning, I would get home incredibly quickly through Midtown. Not the case lately, and drivers are saying the same thing. They say the MTA are giving out these numbers about how fast the commute is, but that hasn't been the case for them.
Where'd they get this number from? That's the crazy part. Like, that makes no sense to me. Like, what, do they count cars? Like, seriously, though, like, nothing has changed.
It is being redirected. It's just not so much as the MTA would say.
Certain areas are better, I would say, but
but it's still pretty bad.
They just saying numbers to make it sound good.
Yeah, I kind of agree. According to a Regional Plan Association report, though, there are roughly 25% fewer traffic jams in Manhattan and surrounding areas, and that traffic outside the tunnels, Lincoln and Holland, is way better than it's ever been. But that has not been my experience, at least in the last month or so. 5:52. What it's like to be an Uber driver in New York City. Blaram Scoro has been a for-hire driver for nearly a decade now. He drove for Uber until February, when he says an intoxicated passenger was upset that he would not change the drop-off location, something drivers are not allowed to do. So then he reported some false accusation about Blaram to Uber. So Uber, instead of doing an investigation, immediately turned off his ability to drive. Now, he's one of those diamond drivers. If you don't follow Uber, diamond is the best driver. That means you get the highest ratings. So they didn't even give him a hearing. They just turned off his service, and that's the way he makes money.
One passenger came out from the car. He sees a camera recording. He didn't say anything, but from outside he said, I know what I'm going to do. You're going to lose your job. I'm going to complain to Uber. Or they said your account is deactivated because the passenger complained you was driving unsafe or something. They make a story.
Yes, so what seems really unfair about this is Blaram has a dash cam. So he said, hey, let me give you the dash cam video and you'll show I've done nothing wrong. That the customer even said out loud that he wanted to get revenge against me. But Uber said no, and so he isn't driving for them. So a city council member heard his story. His name is Shakar Krishan, and he says he's heard other stories of Uber drivers being in the same predicament where they don't get a hearing. And so now he wants to change the rules here in New York City.
Right now, the process is a company-controlled process. It is not an impartial process, and it happens after you're deactivated, which means you're trying to reverse a decision that was already wrongfully made. Yeah. My bill changes all of that by giving them notice and process before that drastic decision happens.
Yeah, it seems fair. We reached out to Uber for a comment on the city council bill and did not hear back from them. There was a lot of joy in North Jersey yesterday after a former Hamas hostage, Edan Alexander, returned to his hometown after being held by Hamas for 584 days. Here he was. It sounded like in Tenafly yesterday. A few thousand people lined the streets of Tenafly so they could catch a glimpse of the 21-year-old who was in a police motorcade. So he wasn't out walking. He was in a car. We don't really know all about his condition after being held by Hamas for so many days. But the town just overexcited that he's back home.
We're all really excited to have him back. It's a big deal. You know, part of our town's missing, and now he's finally home. So it's really nice for all of us to have him back.
It's so great for him to finally be home. It's a feeling unlike any other, and for him to just be here, you know, to give me a high five like any normal guy would. It's such empowering.
He looks good for all he's been, and the handshake was very, very strong and firm.
It's a very surreal moment seeing him back home after all this time. He looks great. And being able to see the whole town come out and support him, it was very great.
Yeah, Edan Alexander, a dual Israeli-American citizen. He joined the IDF after he graduated Tenafly High. He was then kidnapped on October 7th, 2023. It was a long time in custody, so the town just all-out celebration yesterday.
This is truly, a miracle, and we're so thrilled for his family.
It's been really terrifying. You're waiting for him to come home, but now that he's back, I'm very happy.
Yeah, good news there. And the class of 2025 at one New Jersey high school featured 6 sets of twins this week. Barnegat High's vice principal says she thinks that's a first ever for the school.
As far as I know, we have never had this many sets of twins. It is quite interesting, and it's exciting.
And it's been fun for these twins. One of them is Corey Greenleaf. He says going through high school with his twin Kyle has been pretty special.
He always has my back, so it's always cool, knowing that we can support each other in everything we do.
But some of these graduating twins say they're going to go their separate ways for the first time ever in their lives.
We've been with each other our whole lives, but we also are both very different and do different sports and stuff.
We both have such different career paths, so
We have different futures, but we're still going to find our way to each other.
Yeah, some set of the twins say they plan to attend college together. Others say they will split up and go their separate ways for the first time ever in their lives.
Thanks for listening to the News Hour with Noam Laden. You can hear the News Hour with Noam Laden weekday mornings at 5 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
Roger Stone here for Colonial Metals Group. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Go to freegoldguide.com/stone or call 800-747-6589 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold, and it's 100% tax-free.